Hello, welcome to Rushcliffe Bio. This is the first of my A-level biology videos, and in this video I'm going to be explaining the proximal convoluted tubule and selective reabsorption. So firstly we just need to know a bit about the nephron. So this is showing the structure that runs through the kidneys. So what we have is we have this group of capillaries here, these are blood vessels, and that is known as the glomerulus. So that is where the blood is filtered and substances move from the blood into the Bowman's capsule, which is this loop surrounding that network of capillaries. So obviously we'll touch on what those substances are in a second, but then if we move on through the nephron, what we have here is the proximal convoluted tubule, or PCT, and that is where selective reabsorption occurs, and that is the process that I'm going to explain now. So what I've done is I've drawn here on this board the lumen of the proximal convoluted tubule, and these cells are cells lining the proximal convoluted tubule. I've just drawn this one here to show that it's kind of a tube to make it a bit clearer. So what we have here is the lumen of the proximal convoluted tubule, and this is where the substances that were filtered from the blood will flow through. So they're flowing through this gap here. Now on the other side, over here, we have a blood vessel. So a blood vessel on that side, and the blood will be flowing in the opposite direction, and that will carry away products that are reabsorbed. So what's the idea behind this? So selective reabsorption, the idea is to move substances that have been filtered from the blood into the nephron back into the blood. So reabsorbing all of the substances that we need to reabsorb. And there are a few stages involved. So firstly, you need to be aware of what substances have moved from the blood into the lumen. So there'll be some sodium, so sodium salts, so Na+, some glucose, which I'll indicate with a G. There'll be some amino acids, which I'll show as AA. There'll be some water, okay. And there'll be a very small amount of protein. Now most proteins are too big to be filtered from the blood, so they don't end up in this fluid known as the filtrate in the lumen of the proximal convoluted tubule. So there are a few steps that occur to allow us to reabsorb these products. We want to reabsorb all of the glucose, all of the amino acids, because they're very important for our bodies. So the first step is on this side of the cell of the lumen. So what happens here is sodium is actively pumped out of the cell and will move into the blood, while potassium moves in. And that uses ATP. So ATP will be converted into ADP. So that requires energy. So what's happening there is the sodium is being removed from the cell, and what that does is it creates a low concentration of sodium inside the cell. So now, on the other side of the cell, the lumen side, there'll be another protein. Now this protein is a protein is a co-transporter protein. So what's going to happen here is the sodium will move in by diffusion, by facilitated diffusion, because it's through this membrane protein. So sodium moves in to the cell by facilitated diffusion, but what also happens is that movement can be coupled with the movement of glucose and amino acids. So essentially what's happening is the gradient, the concentration gradient of sodium, is being used to help move glucose into the cell. And it's also used to move amino acids into the cell. Just one at a time, not both together like in this diagram. So that shows what happens there. So glucose and amino acids will now be found in the cell. So glucose and amino acids, because the concentration of glucose and amino acids in the blood will be low, because remember this blood has been filtered, glucose and amino acids can now diffuse into the blood and be carried away by the bloodstream. Okay. So that's the reabsorption of glucose and amino acids. This process here is called co-transport, as in the movement of sodium being coupled with the movement of glucose and amino acids. In addition, because that sodium's moved into the cell, as well as glucose and amino acids, that's going to reduce the water potential in the cell. So we'll have a low water potential inside the cell, which allows water to move in by osmosis and then move from there into the bloodstream. Okay. So that's the process of facilitated diffusion. You need to be aware that energy is used here to pump sodium out of the cell and potassium in. You need to be aware that the movement of sodium by diffusion down a concentration gradient is coupled to the movement of glucose and amino acids. This then allows glucose and amino acids to be reabsorbed into the blood and be carried around the body. Because of this process, there is a low water potential in the cell, which allows water to be reabsorbed by osmosis. So, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please comment on the video. Please subscribe to this channel and also follow me on Twitter at Rushcliffe Bio. Thank you very much for watching. And if you have any requests, leave it in the comments. Thank you very much.